Hey there, welcome to The Conversation. I'm Brooke Thomas, and I'm so glad to be here. You know, Jake is out. Sometimes, I try to like scoop in and get a chance to be able to talk to you guys one-on-one. I'm glad to be here. We're talking climate change all show long today, so let's get right into it because we've got a couple of great guests, and I think you're gonna be interested in what they have to say. First up, we have Wayne Hsiung, organizer for Direct Action Everywhere and formerly a corporate lawyer and professor of law at Northwestern. Wayne, good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. So I did a little research on you, obviously, and I just want to get right into it. Can you break down for our viewers the protest that happened at the Purdue chicken farm?
Last September, there were about 150 of us who went to a massive factory farm that is the largest organic supplier of chicken to the nation. And contrary to what the company had been saying, these animals are raised indoors in massive industrial sheds. They're suffering from horrific diseases that are making human beings sick. And they're suffering from just ungodly cruelty. And under California law, when an animal is being abused, private citizens actually have the right to intervene, to give them food and water, to assist them. That's what we did. We exercised our legal rights, but notwithstanding the fact that we had a legal opinion from one of the most prominent criminal law scholars in the state of California defending our actions, the officers swept up 58 of us, charged us with multiple felonies, and put people in jail on $20,000 bail.
Oh my goodness. Break down a little bit more just for our viewers, because you touched on it a little, like what's going on with the animals and how this is affecting actually human beings as well.
Absolutely.
What did you feel like your purpose was of being there? What did you all want to happen once you went there for this protest?
Well, over the past 10 years of modern social media technology, everyone's got a smartphone, including workers, ordinary citizens. When we see animal abuse, when we see something disgusting happening in the food system, we don't have to rely on corporate media. We can just pull out our iPhones and take a photo. And that's what people have been doing across the entire globe. And as a result of all these investigations, a lot of ordinary people are rising up. They're saying enough is enough. We don't like animals being brutalized, torn to pieces, left to starve to death on a four-lever factory farm. We don't like to see diseases in our food system that are killing off thousands of kids. As we speak and talk today, there are 20 to 30,000 Americans who die from a disease called MRSA that comes from pig farms. And we certainly don't like being lied to by the biggest food conglomerates in the nation. Companies like Costco, Whole Foods, Amazon like to market their products as free range, humane, and sustainable. And what people don't know is that behind closed doors, animals are being absolutely brutalized. And so what's happened is ordinary citizens are now starting to protest the system in the same way we're protesting fossil fuels and other corporate abuse.
And I know we have a look at what you all saw while you were there, and so I want to roll that footage while you're telling me, exactly what you saw when you all stepped on the farm that day. How about you start, and we'll catch up to you. Let's try that. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, this is the kind of largest organic poultry producer in the nation, Purdue Foods, and they workers undocumented. They have very little privilege, and when they report abuses, they get fired and punished as well. And I've got friends who work in the industry who are sick and tired. So it's not just vegans and vegetarians are rising against factory farms; it's the farmers themselves. They're saying enough is enough. Stop forcing us to torture animals and make the community around me sick. We need to stop the system before it gets too late.
Wait, let's talk about this chicken supplier, because that video was horrifying, and I think a lot of people are going to see that and be freaked out. Who buys their products?
Yeah, shockingly, it's some of the biggest and most reputable groceries in the nation. Companies like Safeway, Whole Foods, Amazon, which is making a huge push into food, that a multi-billion-dollar acquisition of Whole Foods just a few years ago. So when you go and buy chicken at your local grocery store, thinking you're doing something good for the environment, for the animals, something that's safe for your kids to eat, what you don't know is there's virtually no regulation of the food system at all. And when people like me, I'm a corporate lawyer, I've been a law professor, I've done animal law for the past 15 years of my life. When we report these incidents of misconduct to the government, instead of the government addressing the cruelty in the farms, they're now going after the activists. And so people like me, I'm facing 15 felonies across 4 different cases for merely taking photographs inside factory farms, exposing the use of antibiotics that are dangerous to human kids, and showcasing animal cruelty that most ordinary citizens just can't bear to see.
I want to go back to what you just said. You said facing 15 felonies. And I know that something like almost 60 people were arrested during that protest that we're talking about right now. To break that down, tell me what's going on there.
Yeah, some of these folks are teenagers, they're grandmothers who have no criminal history at all. One of these young women was just standing outside the farm in a medical care tent, giving water to the animals. That's all she was doing, and she was swept up too. 58 activists in total were charged with multiple felonies. They charged them with felony burglary, felony conspiracy, felony larceny for merely removing animals who are basically trash animals, animals who are collapsed on the ground, dying of starvation. And this isn't just the activists saying this. The government's own veterinarians inspected the facility, looked at the animals and found these animals are starving to death. They're sick of diseases that potentially could infect the human population as well, and referred this company, this farm, for criminal prosecution. But the prosecutor looked at this evidence, looked at these animals, sometimes of gaping holes in their side that were so deep you could see the muscle and bone of the animals. You could see the animals' flesh literally rotting. Saw that this referral for criminal prosecution and said, I'm going to charge the activists instead of the farm. And the answer, quite simply, is money in politics. That Petaluma Poultry and Purdue Foods donate thousands of dollars to local politicians. They donate to a supervisor by the name of David Rabbit, who's received thousands of dollars from local big ag concerns. And they're returning the favor by going after the activists for exposing the misconduct.
Wayne, we have another video that I want to show as well, because I know that this is a bit of what happened, because it's not just the animals at this farm, there are employees there as well. And this is a look at what happened with the employees. They confronted you, am I right?
Yeah, some of the employees did confront us, unfortunately, and they were not very peaceful with us. And the funny thing is, as often happens with the government, when the government issued a press release right after this demonstration, they accused us of violence. They charged us with assault. And the video tells a very different story. When you see what's actually happening, go ahead and play it.
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
These are animals that were found inside your farm. This is a wild animal. He's on the ground. This is another animal who's decomposing inside the farm. And again, we have nothing but compassion and heart for you as well. I'd love to talk to you about this and work through these findings. When you have animals in situations like this, they die of natural disease.
Are you gay? Oh, I didn't know. That's great. Go eat some vegetables.
Of us in jail and reported to the media that we were the ones who engaged in violence against the activists. And we're seeing this time and time again, where there's police misconduct and government misconduct and industry misconduct. When powerful people abuse their power, instead of holding the power accountable, the government accuses the victims of misconduct. And that's what happened in this case.
Wayne, can you tell me a little bit about the Animal Liberation Conference? Because now you want to do something else about this, and you have a pretty big conference planned. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the great thing about all this kind of draconian overreach by the prosecutions in Sonoma County and Utah and North Carolina, and kind of the unprecedented felony charges against activists is it's driven an enormous amount of media attention. And we've had some of the nation's most prominent political journalists, people like Pulitzer Prize winner Glenn Greenwald, the host of Democracy Now!, Amy Goodman, and now the Young Turks as well, publicizing these issues because they're seeing that whistleblowers are being put in prison. They're being threatened with 15 felonies. And so the Animal Liberation Conference is an effort by all the people who are concerned about corporate control over the food system, including some farmers themselves, coming together and saying, what are we gonna do about this? What are we gonna do about the fact that factory farms are polluting the air and the water, and the Trump administration has rolled back all environmental protections? What are you gonna do about the fact that climate change is being driven in no small part by factory farms? The emissions from pig farms and cow farms are polluting our air and causing so many methane and carbon dioxide emissions that they're now considered one of the world's largest contributors to climate change. What are we gonna do about the fact that some of these so-called food products are so contaminated with disease and feces and antibiotics that they have superbugs that not only are hurting our kids and our families, but are completely resistant to all antibiotics that we usually use to treat these diseases? I mean, these are big systemic national and frankly international problems that need to be addressed. And the Animal Liberation Conference is an effort by politicians, farmers, legislators, animal rights activists. People from across the world are coming to UC Berkeley in just a few weeks to decide together what we can do about this oppressive and violent system that's destroying the planet, destroying our communities, and destroying animals on an unprecedented scale.
Wayne, before we wrap up, I want to learn a little bit more just about you personally, because I think a lot of people consider themselves animal lovers and want the best for animals, but not enough people are, and not many are willing to go to this length to save their lives and say, and allow them and hope for that they're treated better. And I wonder why this is something that you're so passionate about.
And my story is the story of so many immigrant families across this nation, where we came to this country with $40 in our pockets and just a dream. And this country has given us a huge amount. But honestly, the thing that I got most from this country was the love of dogs and the love of animals. Like in my home country, they kill and eat dogs for food. And it was a horrible thing for me to see as a child, dogs being beaten, but I didn't have the connection to animals that I developed here in this country. And partly because all of my neighbors had dogs. I saw animals not just as things for us to abuse and use for corporations to profit off of, but as living creatures to respect. And my dog was my best friend. Like many of you, maybe you have a dog, Brooke, and we know these animals are not just things. They're not just things for a corporation to abuse and profit off of. So my story is the story of so many Americans in this country, and that I had personal experiences of animals that taught me that they're living creatures, they're sentient. And I think we're reaching a point, an inflection point in our society where more and more people are realizing that pigs, cows, and chickens are just like our dogs and cats at home, that they are being absolutely brutalized by corporate misconduct, but most importantly, that there is something we can do about it. And we are doing something about it. The Animal Liberation Conference with mass protests across the entire nation and across the globe. Something is changing in our society, and people are starting to realize, as they realized with gay rights 20 years ago, that there's something happening to people we care about, to animals we care about, and there's something we need to change in our society to address it.
Wayne Hsiung, organizer for Direct Action Everywhere, and you all have the Animal Liberation Conference coming up at the end of this month. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks so much, Brooke. We appreciate all your coverage.
Absolutely.